Hi, welcome back to Momarchy, the podcast where we try to make sense of motherhood, politics, and we take 2026 one day at a time. And we're definitely taking 2026 one day at a time. It's January 2nd
While we record this.
while we record this, not while you listen to this. Sarah, you've had a rough couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's so interesting because we'll give you a little sneak peek into how we kind of record these on a weekly basis. And as you all know, we have full-time jobs and we try to get recordings in when we can, when it works for our families and for our jobs. And so we recorded a ton of episodes in December before the holidays and before tons of stuff was happening and we went on break. So you guys probably noticed in our last week's episode when we were talking about January 6th, we recorded that in December. So the last 10 days has been really wild. My whole family came out. We all got norovirus. We all got the flu. We had a few ER visits. It was insane. I was just telling Tanya about it before we started recording in more detail, but it was wild. So many things happened. I am still personally recovering from norovirus and the flu. I'm obviously feeling better. My face is looking very pale if you're watching on YouTube, but it was a really wild 10 days. And now it's the new year. Thank fucking God. But thank God I did not have New Year's resolutions because nothing is happening until February in my life.
That's why I have not nearly the extent of an illness that you and your family have. It's just a pretty bad cold, I'm pretty sure.
Get ready though.
Yeah, oh my god, I know.
Colorado is a hot spot.
Yep, and yesterday, I was laying in bed and I was like, "Ugh, my one resolution to stretch." The easiest thing, I coulda done it, but it was just I felt so gross, and I was like, "I don't wanna bend my head down, it hurts."
Yeah, it's been a wild few days for the new year. So it is my birthday in a few days, and I told my husband, I'm like, I just want to go see the new Timothy Chalamet movie. That is all I want. I just want to feel well enough. I will wear a mask to go to the movies and watch that movie. That's all I want.
Wait, what new movie is it?
It's about a table tennis player,
Oh.
Marty Supreme.
Yeah. Okay, okay. I've heard great things
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, it got really good reviews. So I'm just trying to make it until then. And I hey, the good news is I got a lot of TV watching done. Even though my family was visiting, we were all quarantined into our bedrooms because everyone was sick. So I did catch up on Mormon Wives and the Taylor Swift docuseries, watched the entire final show of Taylor Swift with my brother. He was that sick that he tolerated watching that. So that just shows you how sick he was. And I watched the new Leonardo DiCaprio movie, One Battle After Another. Highly recommend. Very political.
So I was at my parents' last week, and I wanna emphasize I did not know that there are ASL versions of some movies, and that in the lower corner, there's people, doing sign language. And so they kept on saying, "There's a man in the corner of our screen, doing sign language," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And so I was over there, and, it's taking up, 25% of the screen, this man, very enthusiastically signing, which is great, but, we couldn't figure out how to get it off the TV. It turns out that there is both the ASL version and the regular version. So, when you are renting that movie, if you need ASL, that's great news, but if you don't, then make sure it doesn't say ASL or else you're gonna have he was giving it his all. He too was an actor through this process, this ASL man.
You sent me that photo. That actually makes sense. I was kind of in a daze and I was like, I don't know what's happening here, but that makes total sense. Well, Tanya, how was your New Year's?
It was fine. We went to my daughter and I went to Noon Year's Eve at the Children's Museum, which was
So
pretty
cute.
nightmarish. Oh, yeah, and also
Oh,
cute. Sorry. I guess depends on how you look at it. It was just so busy.
yeah.
She seemed like she had a great time. She loves most things, like 90% of everything. But then when, like, the ball dropped or whatever outside for the kids and streamers went out, for some reason, streamers, like, she had a visceral reaction to them, and so
Oh, shy.
I know, and I just watched her face in horror, and I was like, "We have to go," and so that's when we went, like, on the outskirts. It was right by it's close to the Platte River, so we went and we sat and we had a little snack, and then we went home. But other than that, we my husband and I watched the Stranger Things finale, and it was great. I think we liked the way that things wrapped up. I'm happy Steve is still alive. That was really the only thing that I needed. And oops, spoily, if you haven't watched,
Squilly.
that's a spoiler.
Spoily. That's a new term. I'm gonna use that. Spoily.
That's something I picked up from my husband, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, I should have I'm not gonna go into detail about all of our illnesses, but I should have just, like, texted or called Jason when we were dealing with some wild things happening. Everyone's fine now. Yeah, healthcare.
Healthcare man.
Who would have thought? Also, this is political because it's crazy. My husband, we're on really good health insurance through the state, and we went to the ER several times. We still had to pay so much money out of pocket because of, like, the deductible and all the and it just, like, made me think and reflect a little bit on, like, I didn't even have a second thought when I, like, picked up the phone or, like, whatever, went to the ER. People that don't have health insurance now or won't have it soon, I can't even comprehend, like, how that's going to feel and what that like, they are not going to go to the ER when there's an emergency because even with health insurance and good health insurance, it costs us thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and they're not going to go to, like, the doctor or something until there's an absolute emergency, like, the worst thing in the world where, then the cost is astronomical, but what choice did they really have before that? And people are so cold when they talk about healthcare and the options that they have when it's very much a mentality of like, "I'm fine, my family's fine, so that's great." And not looking beyond that.
And until something awful happens. Yeah, until something happens, like, it's the same thing with all of the many things we talk about on the pod, like with mass shootings. Like, it doesn't affect you until it does, right? Like, anyway, I digress. Actually, I digress into our political updates. So that's a good transition.
It is, perfect. Let's go back to Christmas. Let's go back to 2025 real quick. Let's go to Trump's Christmas tweeting meltdown, where he tweeted over 100 times on Christmas Eve and Christmas. So, Sarah, I know that you heard a little bit more about this. Do you wanna give us an overview?
Merry fucking Christmas from Donald Trump. Yeah, to be quite honest, I was dealing with a lot of things that I wasn't paying attention to this, but I then after the fact listened to an interesting podcast where they dissected some of these tweets. I also watched oh my God, I watched so much TV, The Apprentice, which was super interesting about like the guy, Rob Cohn, who was kind of like Trump's mentor. Anyway, it explains a lot. And I have a point to this. His tweets were so unhinged, and I think part of it was because his family doesn't actually wanna spend any time with him. He doesn't have real friends, so he's just, like, eating his Big Mac, tweeting, like, he's not with his staff because his staff is taking a break for the holidays. I mean, he literally said at one point, he said, "Enjoy what may be your last Merry Christmas." That is so dark and so unhinged. This is the president of the United States of America. Like, what is that even supposed to mean? Like, what? And people, okay, people were liking it and retweeting. Like, I also don't understand. We talk a lot about like, why do people vote for Donald Trump? Like, why would you retweet something like that?
I don't know. It's also one of these things where, like, what do you mean? You're president. The person that you wanted to be president is president. What do you mean, enjoy your last Merry Christmas? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Because it's in your control right now. And it seems like you
And like the tweet where he's talking about like sleaze bags that supported Epstein, and he's like, "I dropped him before any of you other people dropped him," and it's like, so that makes it okay that you associated yourself with him, probably doing crazy shit and like illegal things, but don't worry, guys, I dropped him. before any of you sleazebags did, so it makes it okay.
Yeah. And we all know that he didn't do it because he realized something he was doing was wrong. And there are so many more files that have come out about,
Oh, Bill Clinton.
yeah, well, Bill Clinton, but I was going to say specifically with Trump and, like, being present on a boat when I don't know if you saw this, that there was a teenager who had a baby and on a yacht. This is so dark, and they ended up killing this infant, and it said that Trump was a witness to this event, and so that's just one of, like, thousands and thousands and thousands of things, and if this is the stuff that we're seeing, then, I don't know, that's just again, like, that's one page of a police report. We don't know. There's nobody else that has come out really and talked about it or verified that, but that's in there, and it's really weird that we're not addressing something like that more.
Yeah, that's wild. I didn't hear about that. I'll need to take a look. Yeah, it just, we're in the new year now. There's so much to say and so much not to say because there are no words for some of it. So, Tanya, what do you think about this like Hunger Games style Patriot Games that Trump's is announced that's happening this year?
I think Trump watched The Hunger Games and thought, "Amazing." Like,
Yeah, he doesn't read books.
no, that's I was thinking if I should say Trump read The Hunger Games, but he didn't. He watched The Hunger Games. He liked the style of President Snow. He thought that was cool, and he fancied himself a President Snow and then thought, "We can do that. Like, let's have our children compete against each other." It's and he said that, like, there would be 100 high school athletes, one boy and one girl from each state and US territory. So, like, even that math doesn't add up because there's 16 territories and Washington, DC. So, I don't know if he thinks that there are 50 states and that includes the territories, what he thinks a territory is.
He doesn't know.
No, no. All that he knows is that the number 50 times 2 is 100. There's 50 involved in the United States somehow. He watched Hunger Games, and he wants to wear, like, a suit.
That sounded nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100 sounded nice. What I don't actually even know when these are supposed to be.
I think July. I'm pretty sure, like, on July 4th.
Yeah, it's sometime this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so get ready for that. We'll do a breakdown. What I am more excited about is the Olympics actually starting next month. So we have that to look forward to. It shouldn't be political, but I'm very excited. Like it's going to be great. Skiing, ice skating. I can't wait.
I love the Winter Olympics. I like the Winter Olympics more than the Summer Olympics. I don't think that that is I mean, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. Like there's some sports that I really like in the summer. Like I like swimming and I like running. Like I like watching those. But skiing obviously is really fun to watch, and ice skating. I like ice skating. So, I don't know, I like both of them. When I was postpartum with Claire, my second, my first, like, week home with the baby or 10 days was the Summer Olympics. So, I just, like, watched more
Oh,
Olympics than I ever have in my life. And so I was like, "Oh, I love the Summer Olympics now." But, yeah, I also the next why am I think the next Summer Olympics is in Los Angeles.
yeah, it is.
We should get an Airbnb now and, like, try to get tickets because that would be so fun, even just for, like, 2 days to go to some of the events.
It would be really fun. Even just to be around that energy in LA when it's happening. It would be really awesome to be able to go to LA Olympics.
Yeah. Okay, and one other thing that just happened yesterday, even though this episode will, come out in a few weeks, is Mom Donnie being sworn in to be New York's next mayor, which is official now.
We've got Mayor Mamdani. I hope he succeeds. I hope that he does really well and that they're able to get what they want. I think that it's a weird move for him to did you see that he rejected the, definition of anti-Semitism?
Oh, God, no.
that has been in place that is the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition.
Oh, I did see something about this. Like, he kind of is
Yeah.
he's swinging back and forth on this.
Yeah, to, like, quote, unquote, "start fresh," but I don't think that's something that needs to be started fresh on, and, like, he threw in, like, "Oh, but I ate bagels and schmear" in his, speech, so it just kinda it felt gross. Em but you know what?
He's overcompensating.
He's overcompensating and just being, like, tacky, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, look, I mean, like, I am so happy that Andrew Cuomo is not the next mayor, right? Like, I don't want a sexual assaulter, in the mayor's office. However, like, all the things about Mom Donnie, I think I have a huge problem with politicians or people campaigning on things that they overpromise, and I think that's what Mom Donnie did. I think a lot of the, like, socialists of America, that's what they do, and, like, I do understand to an extent is, like, you have to have ideas before they become things, like, I understand that at a very intimate level, like, working in policy and working in politics, but, like, to promise free childcare, to promise free buses, like, I really, really hope that some of these things happen. It would be so amazing for people in the city and be it I mean, it would be great, but, like, I think there is a line where it becomes lying and it becomes it's really unfortunate because, like, I would never advise a candidate that I work for to say things that he or she does not know how they're gonna accomplish, and, like, again, you gotta have ideas, you gotta have vision, but, like, it's lying. Also, I have a problem with Bernie Sanders being there swearing him in. I just, like, obviously, I work for Hillary Clinton. I grew up in Vermont. He was my congressman before he was a senator. It to me, it was like, "This is the movement. This is the next movement," and, like, there's so many things to be excited for Mamdani. That's great. If you supported him, great. Like, it was a movement. It really was. It was a grassroots phenomenon. Amazing. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens. He's already had some staff resign in disgrace without even starting because of, like, anti-Semitic and weird racist shit they've said in the past. So, not off to a great start, but it's the first day. So
Let's go.
let's go. But again, if you are one of our listeners who is so excited about Mamdani, like, there is lots of things to be excited for, and with him getting elected, and we're not trying to belittle that. We're just, like, trying to be pragmatic and real about, like, let's just see what happens.
And at the end of the day, like, he's smart. He's a smart person,
Very, very smart man.
and he is somebody that will be able to get stuff done. Yeah, he is well spoken. He is the first Muslim mayor. That is absolutely incredible. There are a lot of, as you're saying, great things to celebrate. So I feel bad because we've assumed the best of a lot of people, but let's see how it goes. And unfortunately don't love the start, but maybe things will balance out.
And, hey, if New York City can provide free childcare, maybe we're moving to New York City.
Oh. Oh no. But
I
I
feel like
can't.
you have a
I
lot of
can't.
people that you know in New York City that you might not want to see. I don't know. I feel like
God. Who do I
I'm not gonna say.
Yeah, all my enemies live in New York City. Um, it's
Okay.
just so crowded.
Very crowded.
But one day we'll get into New York City. But today we realized that 2026 is gonna be really heavy with politics and stressful for moms, so we're going to try to keep it a little bit lighter and go back to a time that is simpler, or at least we didn't have social media, so we didn't know what was happening all the time. And in the 90s, were we safer, or did we just feel that way because we were kids?
Yeah, like Tanya said, we're just gonna lighten it up. We were thinking about doing an interview today, and then we were like, yeah, let's talk about fun memories of when we were kids. 'Cause we need that. So and we know last week we talked about January 6th, very heavy. So, enjoy your cup of coffee, your poppy, your NA beverage of choice if you're doing dry January. I'm not, but if you are, good for you. Whatever is getting you through this first month of 2026, and let's get into it.
All right, so 1990s. Why is nostalgia back? We're seeing it everywhere. So jelly shoes, we even just talked about that with with a guest on the podcast. Baggy jeans, thank God. The revivals of old shows, what Tamagotchis. If you don't know, if you're listening and you're too young, it was like a little pet to keep alive.
I so first of all, like, love the 90s. I, you know, my childhood, formative years was in the 90s and then like teens, early 2000s. So if you're like me, Tanya, I'm sure you follow some of these. Well, actually, some of them follow us on our Instagram account, like millennial 90s kids Instagrams. And they've just been like giving me life these days. I'm like, can we just go back to those days? And I also think when you are raising kids, you kind of relive your childhood in a way, like you're going through we've talked about the holidays for the first time or birthday parties or, like, buying toys, and it's like it really is making me remember and think back to, like, when I was a kid and what were the things that I loved, like, Tamagotchis were great. My mother-in-law bought my son this, like, little, like, creature, looked like a gerbil, and you, like, press the top of its head, and it, like, makes these cute sounds like, "Meow, meow," and you have to, like, feed it and take care of it, similar to Tamagotchi, but, like, love that. Love that. Did you ever play with, like, Polly Pockets or Furbies?
Love Polly Pockets, never had a Furby, never desired a Furby.
It's so creepy. They're like the Labubus now.
Still unsure what a Lububu is, but do Labubus talk or are they just stuffed animals?
I have no idea. I'm so thankful that my kids did not ask for one of those this Christmas.
Yeah, being excited. So a mom actually, my friend Morgan was saying that as a gift, somebody got her an old camera, which this isn't necessarily 90s, but it is retro where, it's a Polaroid camera. And she said it's been so amazing because she can just take a picture of her kid and put it right. Like if you're trying to keep some sort of scrapbook, some sort of baby book, you can just pop it right in there so you don't have to worry about printing it out or anything. And I think that's an awesome idea.
That's so great. Have you seen this has been on the news lately, this mom somewhere, I wanna say in the Midwest, basically started a company where they are bringing back landlines,
No.
and you have a landline and because her kids were getting older where they wanted cell phones, and so she got together with, like, other neighborhood parents and were like, "Would you guys use a landline?" And so now the kids are communicating via landlines, which is how I communicated with my friends. Like, I remember I had, like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 numbers memorized. It was, like, my 2 best friends, my own phone number, and maybe my grandmother's number. Like, I love that. It was simpler. You didn't have to worry about cell phones or shit that kids getting into, like, Instagram or Facebook. Like, I'm definitely gonna do the landline thing.
That's really interesting. That's awesome. We had our main phone line and then a kids line, and our kids line was in my sister's room, which she was the more social one, to be fair, but I have some people to talk to too, so I'd have to sit in there if I wanted to make a call on the kids line. On a regular line, I I could do whatever, but that was also when we had dial-up internet. Like, there were so many factors to just making a phone call and just getting online that, like, it seems so complicated and also so high tech at the time.
Oh, I miss those days.
I know, and the fact that we thought that it was quick if a song downloaded in under an hour, and now I get so anxious when something isn't immediate.
LimeWire, did you use that? Breaking the law, one download at a time.
I was so worried about being, like, caught with LimeWire as if somebody would come and find my 50 songs and, like, throw me in jail, but it was this irrational fear that, like, I was going to be the one. If anybody's gonna be caught, it's gonna be me, so I didn't use LimeWire.
Oh, you okay, question for you. Did you had AIM? We talk about this?
Yeah,
What was your screen name?
we've talked about it because
Was something funny.
it was Lige Lover for Elijah Wood because
Oh,
I
we
loved
have
Elijah
yes,
Wood.
we actually
Yeah.
talked about this in our first episode with Brittany Pedersen, right? I think it was.
Yeah, and yours was, like, Lax
Lax chick,
something?
yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just speaking of, like, going online, I mean, I remember this was probably early 2000s now, but I we had, like, 20 minutes or, like, 30 minutes, or my parents would be like, "Okay, you can go on AIM for 30 minutes." And I remember we would do this whole thing with my friends where we would then call our crushes on their landlines and be like, "Hey, are you getting on AIM?" And then we'd all go on AIM at the same time, for 30 minutes, and now kids are just, like, constantly doing Snapchat and Instagram, and, I mean, like, we've talked a lot about social media, but yeah, I miss those times, and TV, like, YouTube, everyone like, kids have access to YouTube, like, that's scary. There's so much weird shit on the internet.
Yeah. Do you remember did you ever put, like, that notification on for when somebody would sign on to AIM and it would do a ding?
Yes.
Oh my god, and, like, I had no chill at all, and as soon as I heard that ding, if it was from a crush, I'd be like, "Hey, it's I see you just signed on, what's up?" And I want to see my away messages. I really, really wanna see my away messages. I've actually Googled this a lot of if there's a way to go back and find your AIM away messages to just see what drama I was experiencing and what, like, Lifehouse lyrics I felt pertain to my life.
Yeah. It probably too much drama I was, stirring up on AIM before Facebook dropped. I've also seen lately, just speaking of, like, 90s trends that are coming back, I've seen this on social media where moms are, like or parents are buying, like, little TVs and then buying a bunch of, like, VHS tapes, like old Disney movies,
Oh, that's so cool.
and setting them up in their kids' playrooms. And I don't have the space for that now, but if I ever do, I want to do that. I love that because I remember as a kid, like, you would treasure your VHS tapes, and then we would go to Blockbuster, like, on a Friday night, we would go or Saturday, we would do errands all day, and then my mom would be like, "Okay, you each can pick out 1 VHS tape or 1 movie," and we'd have it for a week, and I like, Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore. I don't think it does. I think it's, like, totally gone.
No, I think that there's, like, one nostalgic one left somewhere.
Like an OG.
Yeah, but even that might
Sad.
be gone. I could be making that up.
Like, we should get that I just thinking like, now I'm thinking, like, my kid, my oldest, who's 3.5, like, the thought of bringing him to a Blockbuster and he gets to pick, like, 1 Disney movie out, like, he would love that, and now it's like, "Okay, let's just go on Netflix or Disney Plus," and it's just not the same. It doesn't feel special. It doesn't feel like, "Oh, I get to watch this 1 movie." It's like I can just watch unlimited amounts of shit.
Yeah, and I never even considered what a special time it was for family and friends, for, like, going with your best friends after school, and I remember my mom always taking us and just, like, the car right there, being there with my mom, coming back, like, that's really nice time, and
Core memory.
never getting the candy in the line.
Yes.
I don't know, I
Yes. Oh
am
my god, the
still
candy.
sorry, mom, I'm still upset about it because
Never getting the
even though those cookie dough bites are
yes.
100% chemicals,
But it
I
was
still
like
it still would have been great.
okay, you probably remember this. I mean, obviously, we were in totally different states, but it's still, like, the '90s nostalgia is, like, I remember if I had a sleepover, like, my mom mostly my mom, it would be, like, taking us to Blockbuster or the local video store and picking out, like, The Parent Trap or, like, whatever. Sometimes she would be like, "Okay, you can pick out 1 new release." That would be, like, 8.99 or 15.99, and then you can pick out, like, a Broadway musical, which would be, like, 1.99. And then I would get to pick out, like if I was having a sleepover, I could pick out, like, one piece of candy like, in the line leading up. Gosh, see? Like, forgot about that. You're just reminding me of these wonderful things that happened.
I mean, it's comforting. It's really comforting to just sit back and think about that because it felt just who knows how our parents felt like it was probably an extraordinarily stressful time for them. But looking back, it just seems like so nice that that was like you're in that moment. You don't have a cell phone. You're going to pick just one movie. Whereas, like, we scroll through Netflix, Hulu, HBO for 45 minutes, never find anything, and end up watching like The Simpsons.
This may be a motivator for me to do this VHS tape thing sooner than later, and like set something up because there is truly something to be said for sure nostalgia, but like slowing down and making things a little simpler for your kids, at least.
Yeah, definitely. And, valuing something like when I take my dog on walks, I try to not check my phone during that time because I think that as simple as a walk down to the lake was just so nice when we were little. And like now I don't want my daughter to see me just checking my phone while she's in the stroller and thinking that like, oh, like this is something that I'm supposed to do. I want that to be like a nice time for her too, like a mental break. It's yeah, so nostalgic trends repeat roughly every 20 to 30 years. So right now, trends are hitting the younger generation, which were things that we were into, right?
Yeah, I was looking up some things that are coming back too, like, we've talked about, like, the Lululemon fanny packs, like, the fanny packs were a thing, now they're coming back, love that. Also, like, I tend to wear scrunchies a lot, always have, but that was a trend that started when we were young and now it's coming back. Butterfly clips, I was obsessed with butterfly clips. I have not been wearing butterfly clips lately, I don't think I will, but love that that's coming back, and cargo pants. I love a good cargo pant, I have to say. What about you, Tanya?
Oh my god, I had this one pair of army print, like, camo cargo pants from Abercrombie that to this day is still, I think, the item of clothing that I cared about the most. I felt so cool wearing them. I adored them. I wore them until there were many, many holes, and I I was so proud. I was so proud of those cargo pants.
I love that. My mother-in-law just gave me a pair of cargo pants, and I was like, "I'm loving these right now," because also as a woman and as a parent, like, I can just put my cell phone it's kinda like those leggings that have the, like, slip in them to put your cell phone in. It's just nice, like, you don't have to have like, you can put your keys and like, I'm actually using the cargo pockets as a utility rather than, like, a fashion statement now, and I'm into it. Thank you, 90s. But, yeah, I know you just talked about it. I feel the same way, like, again, we've talked about how I don't like New Year's resolutions, but, like, I really and I've been telling my husband this too, like, we need to be better about, like, not being on our phones in an era of constant news and alerts and algorithms and our fucking emails on our phones, which is also bad because, like, we're constantly looking at it's all like, setting boundaries is important, and I feel like boundaries were automatically set whether you wanted them or not in the 90s and the 2000s.
Yeah, that is true. And kind of transitioning from one kind of boundaries to another one, I think that now we as specifically millennial women and millennial moms are looking back on the way that women were portrayed in the 90s and how it was, we were talking about girl power and a big movement like that. And it was supposed to feel empowering, but the beauty standard was just brutal. And at the same time, like it caused so many issues. And it was all focused on body image and none of it involved health. Like, it wasn't about really do these workout fads. If it was a diet, the diet was essentially like my friends and I in high school did the Special K challenge, which was having a half cup of Special K for breakfast, a half cup for lunch, and then a regular dinner and, like, nothing in between, and we were like, "Oh, it's being like, there's an commercial about it. It's the Special K challenge, like, this is fine."
Or the lemon water challenge, remember that? With the cayenne pepper and the maple syrup?
Oh, yeah, we did that too, which just
So unhealthy.
tasted awful, but it's really good for your throat, by the way. If we would drink it in choir for throats, for diet reasons, not great.
When I in the this is more like early 2000s, I would collect the Got Milk ads in magazines, but I remember, like, a lot of the Got Milk ads were of, like, women and, like, pop stars or celebrities or people that we would see not necessarily in the news, right, but, like, on Disney Channel or whatever, and they were, like, yeah, wearing those, like, super low cut jeans where your, like, hip bone you could see your hip bone, and that's when, like, Abercrombie was really in. Um so, I don't feel like that's the same like, that is a trend that I don't feel like is n well, I don't know, what would you say is, like, coming back right now? I mean, people are now hyper vigilant about health and, like, supplements and all this shit, like, it feels a little bit different, but, yeah, what do you think about that?
It for sure feels different, and I think in a way that we don't understand because we're not in school and consuming the, like, same social media that preteens, teens, probably kids in elementary school are today, where, like, I think it's really different and unattainable in a different way, right? Because there's so many filters. You can edit everything. Like, everything is so meticulously made to look beautiful that it is a literally impossible standard. And so, I mean, who is to say I don't think that one's better or worse. I think that they're equally as difficult, but I think that it for sure.
Well, and the makeup.
Oh my god. Yeah, I cannot imagine. Gen X is much better at doing makeup than I am. I can't imagine doing that every day and going to school.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in the 90s, I would lit well, first of all, going back to the makeup, I never wore makeup. I also think part of this was because I grew up in rural Vermont, so, like, no one was wearing makeup. Like, I can imagine if I grew up in, like, a city, maybe that being different, but, like, health didn't matter in the sense of, like, I would go to school and have a vitamin water and a chocolate chip muffin for lunch, and then I would go to lacrosse practice and be totally fine. Like, what? How did that happen? How did that work?
Don't know.
I don't know how I had the energy, but I feel like that happened with a lot of kids, like, that it didn't like, your health, you weren't really thinking about your health. But, it's hard to relate because we're obviously, like, not in that era of our life anymore.
And just, like, the whole I mean, this goes into something way different, but what, like, lunchtime culture was
Oh my gosh.
of the people who brought lunches versus could buy lunch in the cafeteria versus could go off campus to afford lunch, like, there were so many issues with that, that I think we have a lot of unprocessed I'm not I don't know if I'd say drama because I think that it's an upbringing and everybody has really different circumstances during these upbringings that, like, we just don't process and we don't realize have such a big impact on us and continue to.
Well, and if you think about, like, the 90s, right? Like, my first memory of politics was Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton as the first lady. Like, Hillary Clinton was a very empowering, very involved first lady. She wasn't just picking out China. Like, she has that famous quote where she's like, "Yeah, I could have stayed home and baked cookies." So, like, as a young woman who didn't know it, didn't know I was gonna work in politics, like, seeing her in that role was inspiring despite all of Bill Clinton's, you know, choices in life.
Philandering.
But I also 1992 was the year of the woman where more women were ever elected into Congress than ever before, and that was, like, the year I was born. So, like, the 90s was a very good decade for women in politics, for all, women entrepreneurs. Obviously, we have long way to go, but, like, that decade, there was an emphasis on powerful women and, like, people and women specifically, like, doing really important things for the world.
Yeah, I agree. This is not like a devil's advocate point, there is also such a double standard because of like the way that Monica Lewinsky was treated, for example, and like how that just, regardless of like your view of what happened or the power dynamic or anything there, like nobody, no young woman should ever be treated that way and demonized and just like hunted on a daily basis like that. And, hearing her speak about it now, it was such a crazy situation that, like, the automatic response is, "Oh, well, that girl's a slut." Like, and that was it. That's what the problem was, like, there was just a loose woman in the White House, and it's so much more complicated than that. My friends and I talk about all the time, like, you had to be really, really smart to get a White House internship then, and probably now, but mostly then.
Trust me, I was with some of them, they were not that smart.
I know, I was gonna say, I don't know about now, but then, yeah, you had to be pretty impressive to get a White House internship.
Yeah, no, you're so right because it was one of those times where it was like, "Look, all of these incredible women are doing incredible things, but still, like, we need to adhere to these beauty standards that" like, what was that? My god, that show, the runway show with, Tyra Banks. um Project Runway, like, that was really big at that time, or, like, this time was also when you had, like, Paris Hilton and, like, those types of reality shows popping up, or The Real World, and, like, the women on those shows, the teenagers, the people in their 20s, like, they were not a good depiction of, like, what a young woman like, they weren't eating they were super thin, they, like, how are you that thin? Like, because 'cause you're not eating, you're being unhealthy, so it's, like, this really weird double standard. Anyway, this is an interesting conversation. It's making me reflect on the good and the bad.
Yeah, sorry, it's not as lighthearted as we thought, but it is important. So, maybe let's get into something a little more joyful. It's our lightning round of this or that.
This or that. Ooh, I like that. Can we make that a segment? This or that.
This or that. Yeah, let's play. NSYNC or Backstreet Boys?
Neither.
What? Who? 98 Degrees? O-Town? Tell me.
I was not a boy band person. Can I go on a tangent here for a
No.
second? Did you ever have the Now CDs?
Yes.
The Now CDs were great. There was, like, a few songs here or there from NSYNC or Backstreet Boys, but I was a fan. I will say neither, and I will pick a third option, Now CDs.
The Now CDs.
What about you?
100% allowed, Backstreet Boys all the way. I am very sad I didn't see them in the Sphere, but Now Cities, I I'll always include those as an option now.
I like Darren Carter. R.I.P., by the way.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
Oof.
Friends or Seinfeld?
You go first.
Seinfeld. I
Friends.
I
I'm
do
Fri
really like Friends.
Oh,
I
man.
do really like Friends, but Seinfeld, I feel, just, like, had a molecular impact on growing up.
I was never a Seinfeld fan. Friends all the way. I still like, if I'm feeling like there's nothing on TV, you can always find a channel with a good Friends episode. Just takes me back.
That's true. That's where we're rewatching Seinfeld right now, which maybe is why, like, I'm so nostalgic for it, but even in the 1st season, it's the most 90s thing in the world. It's, like, painful watching some of it, but it's still so good. Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Sabrina the Teenage Witch?
Sabrina,
Yeah.
for sure. Melissa Joan Hart. I desperately want Melissa Joan Hart to come on the pod.
We keep Instagramming her. She's great. If we can get her, if you know her, if you are listening, Melissa, be in touch. We're at Monarchy Podcast. You can find us in your DMs.
Yeah, we're in your
Sarah,
DMs.
me, the Monarchy. Um, yeah, but love Sabrina. We
Yeah.
had a black cat named Salem growing up who I
Oh.
just adored, and he was speaking of cats, there's one behind me now. Okay, do you wanna do the next one?
Yes. Okay, so this is a three-part. Nickelodeon, Disney, or Cartoon Network.
I think Nickelodeon. I think for the 90s, Nickelodeon was the biggest one for me.
My parents did not allow us to watch Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, so our 2 options again, I'm going off script here, were Disney
Was the Now CD.
is Disney Channel or ABC Family. So we would watch, like oh my god, and I'm not as everyone well, actually, I was raised Catholic, but Seventh Heaven,
Oh,
I don't it's like I would always watch Seventh Heaven. But my go-to was Full House, and that was only on ABC Family. But the Disney Channel original movies, oh my god, we could have a whole segment about Disney original movies. Smart House, like, the Leprechaun movie.
Luck of the Irish.
Luck we both yeah, Luck of the Irish. Okay.
Wait, did you watch the ABC, like, Friday night lineup that I think had Sabrina, but it also had Boy Meets World?
Oh, Boy Meets World. Yes, yes. See, ABC Family my brother was, like, way more into the animated stuff. I think sometimes my parents would allow him to watch Cartoon Network, but I loved, like, yeah, Full House, Boy Meets World, Sabrina. So good.
Okay. Night games or laser tag? Did you play night games?
What are night games?
If you know, you know. Night games, we would play them in our neighborhood, and it was basically like tag, ghost in the graveyard,
Okay, well, we
capture the flag, and it was always during the summer in the evening, and it was just all the neighborhood kids, and you would just, like, meet up
okay.
at dusk, and everybody would just convene in one spot and find each other, and, like, night games would begin.
We definitely did this. We didn't call it night games, but my house was, like, in town, a small, small town in Vermont, but, like, it was in town, so you could, like, walk to the green or we called it Vale, which was the, like, park, and we would do crazy shit. We would have, like, competitions between the girls and the boys, and, like, one night we had, like, the boys took a bunch of tampons and pads and put them all over my friend's house, and then we took shaving cream and, like and, like, did something to their
Those night games are much more hijinks than our night games were.
so, we definitely I never heard of it, like but we definitely did those types of things. We would also do, scavenger hunts where we would create scavenger hunts, so it would be like, "Get 1 cent of gas from the 7-Eleven."
Mhm.
Anyway, definitely night games. We did not have laser tag where I lived, so it wasn't even an option. Yeah, okay, Gushers or Warheads? Oh, this is a hard one.
I think Warheads.
Yes. I think Warheads because it was always a competition I would
Ye
have with my brother, like, who could have the warhead without making a face.
Mhm. It was an activity.
It was an activity. I loved Gushers, but Warheads was definitely, like yeah, for sure. Okay, this one's an easy one for me, but curious what you're gonna say. Pop-Tarts or toaster strudel?
I'm saying toaster strudel.
Ooh, Pop-Tart.
Pop-Tarts?
Mhm.
Alright, defend. Defend Pop-Tarts.
I think it's just because like, my mom didn't buy toaster strudel, like, it was always Pop-Tarts, and also we didn't always have them in our house, it was, like, a treat, and, like, when we went to my cousin's house, they would always have Pop-Tarts and, like, a big variety, so, I think today, I would prefer a toaster strudel with the, like, frosting, right? Didn't it come with, like, a frosting that you put on top? But, yeah, Pop-Tarts was just, like, the thing that we had sometimes.
Yeah, we didn't really have Pop-Tarts. We sometimes had toaster strudels, and it would be amazing because he would put them it was like putting them in the oven and
Yeah.
heating that up and then taking it out, and it was just so good, and I just remember it was, like, a thing that we did on a winter day that was delightful, but Pop-Tarts serve a different I think pop maybe we shouldn't have compared them.
They're just so different.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Both.
Oh, man, I could keep going on and on. Okay, so thank you for that. That was really fun. We're going to go into our Ask a Millennial Mom segment, which you all know, like we do some variations on this, but we're just gonna do just like straight up question answer. So, Tanya, uh, since we were the first generation of kids to get cell phones, I think we were. Yes, we were. How are you going to handle cell phones with your kid?
This is I would love to hear people's advice on this and what works well and what doesn't. I think that you bringing up the landline is actually a really cool suggestion because, there's so much anxiety around not being able to get in touch with your kid, but then also wanting them to be not so tethered to something and having that kind of access. And so, like, honestly, I think that I don't see us giving Shy a cell phone, like, as soon as she can handle it. I don't think that we're going to be those kinds of parents. I think that maybe if there are those simplified phones that just have, like, 4 things programmed into it, that, that'll happen, and it'll suck. Maybe she'll be mad feeling like she's missing out on social media and stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah. I actually think that we're at a time where people are by the time our kids are at the age where they're wanting social media or cell phones, I actually think we're going to have new products that are invented that come out on the market that are specifically to, like, limit screen time and, like, limit this type of stuff because it's just becoming such a huge problem right now across the world that, like, there are people that are working on stuff. So, I'm hoping that by the time Teddy is old enough, like, there is a solution. There is, like, something. I'm not giving him a fucking iPhone, and I'm sure parents will do that, right? There's gonna be plenty of kids that will, like, have iPhones just like when we grew up, like or when we were growing up, there were kids that had iPhones, and I still had a flip phone for, like, a long time, and that's just the way it was. So, I'm really hopeful that there's someone somewhere creating something great for kids. But, yeah, I think the landline is an amazing idea. I'd love to do that if I can get enough people that that also wanna do it. Um, okay, so our parents never knew where we were. We most of the time just had a curfew. Like, I don't actually remember ever having a curfew. I don't know if you had one, Tanya. We would check in sometimes when we got home. Now, like, we can track everything. Like, we can track where your kids are. We all have Apple Watches and cell phones and Find My Friends and all the things. So, like, what is too much? What isn't enough?
These are really good questions that I have such poor answers to. I and maybe that's the thing. We're all just trying to figure this out together,
We are.
right? I think that, like you said, hopefully by the time our kids have technology, it will be something where there are limits. I think that it also has to go with like how much you trust your relationship with your kid because I I don't want to know I don't want to feel like I have to check where my daughter is at every second. Well, now I do. She's a baby, but when she's like 16 years old, I want to have that she is making the right choices and that she is being safe. And so I think that maybe it's one of those things until you prove me wrong, this is going to be the kind of trust and understanding that we have that, like, I'm not going to track your phone. But I do know that, like, they have those apps where, like, it'll track if your kid is driving safe, like, what their driving patterns are like and stuff like that, and I think that that's really interesting. Um, but who knows? My answer could change tomorrow, it could change in a year. Yeah, what about you?
All these questions make me very stressed out for the future. Like, every stage of life and every stage of your kids, it's just different, right? Like, the newborn stage to the toddler stage to, like, I have friends whose kids are older and are like, "Yeah, we have challenges with our kids, getting older," and, like, those things. So, I guess my short answer is I thought your answer is great. Like, you gotta trust your relationship with your kids and that they're being smart and, like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I think this also goes back to the, like, figuring out a way to communicate. Like, is it a phone? Is it what is it? What's the technology that's happening then? Like, I would have hated if my parents were, like, tracking me when I was in well, I I wouldn't have been able to get into nearly the trouble that I got into if my parents knew where I was at all times, 'cause I'd be in, like, the middle of the woods partying in Vermont.
Vermont.
Yeah,
Classic
I
Vermont.
was just like,
Edric, are you just
Cal
bumping their Now
the
CDs?
the Calvin Coolidge, historical site. That was a spot. But seriously, like, I also think that's part of growing up. Like, it's part of being a teenager. I say this while also being an extremely anxious person and parent, so we'll see how I handle it. It's just so early. Like you said, who knows how I'll feel in a year, in 5 years, in 10.
If you have if you have advice for us, for other people, you should email us, momarchypodcast@gmail.com, because this is stuff that, like, we can talk about, but obviously we don't have that experience right now, and we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, and we if we ever I think we were thinking about having, like, a psychiatrist on that works with kids or teenagers, like, it will be really interesting to hear their perspective on, like, what does like, because the world is changing, because we all have cell phones and iPhones and or cell phones and iPhones, we all have cell phones and Apple Watches and all the things, like, what is the best thing to do for your kids in terms of, like, their mental health too? Anyway, so lastly, oh, this is such an important question, and I'm excited to talk about it actually with our next guest that we'll have on, is growing up, we all thought the American dream was to just, like, get a job, buy a house, get married, have some kids, like, it was no big deal, like, that was kind of, like, what you did, and now the reality from what it was when we were kids in the '90s, and I'm sure this isn't the case for everyone, but, like, this is how I very much thought the way that life was gonna be, is, like, housing is more expensive than ever. Childcare costs are unattainable. They're more than most people make. Like, there are so many messed up things in the world. There were messed up things in the world in the '90s too. I think we just I don't know. I things feel a lot more fucked up now, to be honest. But I don't even know if I like some people feel like they don't even know if they want to bring kids into this. Like, what are we as parents supposed to do in our new reality? And if you're a listener and you're not a parent and you're thinking about like do I wanna have kids in this fucked up world? Like, can I afford it? Like, what is your advice to them, Tanya?
I have a number of friends that are choosing to not have kids, and I think
Yeah, same.
that's great. Yeah, and I think that, one, our parents' generation needs to stop pressuring our generation, the generation above us, eventually Gen Z, to have kids. Like, if they don't want them, that is okay. That's their choice. That's great. It's their life to live and, like, amazing. I also know that there are some people who are basing it solely off of the fact that they don't want to expose a child to the world that we live in now. And I get that too. Like, that's so scary, and that's something that, like, we honestly talked about is what is our world going to look like in 10, 20, 30 years from now if we're having the kind of environmental disasters that we are right now? What are resources going to be? Like, what is going to be in terms of, like, technology, weaponry, everything like that. And just kind of taking that leap, I will say that since having a kid, my perspective has really changed, but I know that this is only for me personally. And like, I think that my kid, most parents probably think this way. I think that my kid can bring so much positive into the world that, like, I'm so glad she's here to do that and, like, feel really I'm, like, getting emotional.
It's such a good answer.
I feel lucky that, like, there's this little ball of positive energy that will be able to help, and it's not her responsibility. It is the burden that we put on this next generation by setting them up for this. But I think that, you know, I can already tell she is bright enough, she's kind enough, she's excited enough to be able to do something good.
Yeah. I don't know if I could top that. It's so hard because it does feel like things are out of control. Like, it does. It feels like that. But just to go back to the top of the pod when I talked about all the TV I watched this holiday, and my husband and I watched one battle after another, and it's about, like, basically a political struggle through time and what that means and how it affects society as a whole. And I think there's always been and will always be political struggle since the beginning of time. There has been this struggle. Now, climate, that's very real and feels very scary. because that's really out of our control. But as you said, like, bringing kids into the world and knowing that, like, I have the time and the resources, maybe not the time, but the resources and the ability to, like, raise healthy and happy kids that hopefully will go on to, like, fix some of these problems in the world is, yes, a burden in itself, but is something that I think is important, and I think it is. I'm not saying everyone should have kids, like, if you don't wanna have kids, that is your decision, and I respect that, and I totally understand the reasons, but also, like you said, once you have children, there is this perspective of, like, "Gosh, I have this responsibility to raise good human beings that are, understanding and smart and can make good decisions in the world." So, yeah, it sucks right now. But also, like, it's always sucked for all the time, like, throughout time. It's always been hard. So, yeah, and just, like, going back to the '90s, like, I hope that my kids and our kids will have the same type of nostalgia for this time of growing up, and, like, we've talked about creating the magic during the holidays or, like, doing fun things with your kids and creating traditions, like, those are the things that we get to do with our kids to raise really responsible, loving, nurturing humans, and we're creating our own nostalgia right now, and that's great, and some maybe we can bring some of the '90s nostalgia to our kids, and we'll be able to create new ones, so, 2026, it's gonna be okay, guys. We're gonna take back the house. Sorry, I digress.
Let's do it. Let's take back the house. We we're going to.
But, yeah, on all seriousness.
That's a great answer, and I think a really good kind of note to leave it on for what we're looking forward to in this new year. So it was great going back. It was honestly a little bit therapeutic going back on this throwback journey. And we hope that it was a little bit of a break for you, even though, again, it was a little bit heavier than anticipated. Sorry.
Just try to
But
keep it real here.
just try to keep it real, guys. That's all we do. Oh, I'm also trying to say less because of the social clip that you put up on our Instagram where it's just us saying
Thanks, Riverside. Hey, it was our guest too, it wasn't just us.
True. That is true. It's everyone. Anyways, we have a big year ahead, and hopefully this community will help people feel more prepared or at least less alone in this wild, wild place we live in.
Yes, I couldn't have said it better myself. So, subscribe to the pod on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you haven't done that already. Leave a rating, a review. We say this a lot. It helps us grow and have more people find the pod. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's growing.
It is.
Slowly but surely, it's growing. We got to get those numbers up, but we're feeling good. And thank you for tuning in every week. It's been a crazy first few weeks of the year, but we are confident that, it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a good one.
it's gonna be good.
So thanks all.
Manifest that.
Manifest. Man, we're big fans of manifesting. Have a good week and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.